Welcome to Speaking of Grace, the weekly message podcast from the Whole Life Church in Orlando, Florida. We're a multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multi-generational congregation committed to our mission of loving people into a lifelong friendship with God. We are committed to our vision of being a church without walls, fully engaged in serving the people of our community. Thank you for joining us as we continue Speaking of Grace.
My name is Dexter Hadley. I'm from Trinidad, and I'm a doctor and a scientist, which means I have an MD and a PhD. I'm also the chief of artificial intelligence at the College of Medicine of University of Central Florida, which means I use AI to teach the future doctors of America. AI makes accessible complex things that were inaccessible before. For instance, I learned to program computers at age 10. I was very good at it. About 10 years ago, I stopped programming computers explicitly because AI was better than me. I think Christians should approach AI like anything else. I mean, the Holy Bible has been used for good and for bad, arguably. Of course, it's about how you use it and the morality that goes into its use. AI is the new internet. Inevitably, your life is already impacted by AI. Your future mortgage applications are impacted by AI. Claims for insurance. You should be a little bit aware of how these, how the world is changing and how these technologies are playing into everybody's life. Everybody thinks you have to be super smart or super geeky or super nerdy. Absolutely not. You need to speak a language relatively coherently and have a conversation with a message bot. And I think everybody can do that and see what happens. I think technology allows us to evolve in a way to do higher order things, whatever that might be. So there's always some unknown. And for me, as a scientist, I can't really explain it by numbers. God fills that void for me. So I think the ability to kind of understand these processes is what, as we use them more, some of us develop faith in them. But I would advise an evangelical church to leverage such an avenue that is so clearly gaping wide open. AI gives us superhuman abilities just based on the way it works.
So we have the coolest people to go to church here, don't we? Yeah, absolutely. And you're one of them. And if you see Dexter, he's over in this area somewhere. I think he's, there we are. Yeah, he's got small kids that AI can't help out. Maybe I'm wrong, Dexter. You can tell me later. But Dexter wanted me to let you know that if you're interested in learning more about AI, there's actually going to be a workshop that's being sponsored by UCF and Advent Health as well, that he's going to be running. It's free. It's October 11. And so I'll put that information into our newsletter and on our website. So if you're interested in finding out more than what you're going to have time to find out today in my sermon, then by all means check that out. And today we are talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about it because you asked me to. We do a series of sermons every year called Great Question, and you sent me a question that you want me to preach on. I found about it last week, and the question was, given that industry experts warn that AI will change human existence as we know it, how does AI fit into our worldview as Christians? Great question. And I have to tell you, I did not know a ton about AI. And I would say maybe I still don't know a ton about AI, but I certainly didn't know very much going into this week. When I thought of AI, I kind of thought about ChatGPT. That's kind of what kind of came to my mind, maybe robots and ChatGPT. And when I thought about ChatGPT, I thought about, kids cheating at school by using ChatGPT. And then I started thinking, but it has the potential for me to cheat and, have somebody else write my sermons. That will save some time. But then I thought, okay, I know that there's more than ChatGPT. I do know that it's awfully weird how when I'm talking about how I need more laundry detergent, somehow when I'm on my social media, all of a sudden I get a whole bunch of ads for detergent, right? You guys a little creeped out the first time that happened, right? And now about 5 years later, I'm like, yeah, thank you for that helpful suggestion. But yeah, on social media, there's so many different ways that AI is being used there. So I kind of knew that. And then I also knew I had an idea that my cell phone uses AI. I know that there was a big announcement this week, right, from some small tech company that, some sort of fruit or something, and that they are integrating AI fully into their phone. But the truth of the matter is that AI has been in phones for a long time now. It's just more obvious, and it's just smarter, really. And so lots of phones already are using AI. So I knew that, my phone had AI in it. And then I kind of knew that there was probably a reason why I go to a search engine, I start to type in something, and all of a sudden it finishes what I'm looking for. I knew that probably there was some AI in that, and then there was probably some AI going on with just hitting the enter button for the search in general and it pulling all the information together. I kind of had that idea, so I kind of knew that. But I kept researching, and fortunately I had Dexter and I had some other people that helped me out, and then I had AI that helped me research this sermon as well. And it turns out that some of the things I didn't think about right away, which I should have. For the last 10 years, I've had a smart thermostat in my house. I love that thing. It saves, literally the first month I put it in, I could see a difference in my bill. I could see it was that I was spending less on energy because I had this smart thermostat that's paying attention to when I'm home and changing I don't know how it does it, but it does it. Knows when I'm home. That's a little freaky too, but whatever. And then that's kind of that's, you guys don't want to admit it, but that's most of your attitudes too. Like, I know where you're at, but whatever. Something's, I don't know. Anyway, so if you have security in your home, if you use a security company, they're using AI to monitor your home to do that. So there's a lot of different applications that are going on in your home that you may not even think about. Even just the power that's coming in. I'm not even talking about the thermostat, but the power companies, they use AI to forecast how much power is going to be needed and how it's going to need to be distributed and how it gets distributed. That's AI. So your home is impacted. Now, your cars, you all know that AI is in your cars, right? How long do you think AI has been in your cars? Since when? 10 years. So that would be 2014, something like that. AI has been in cars. I did this research. It blew me away. AI has been in cars since 1980s. So if you want a car that doesn't have AI in it, you have to go back a ways. It's just that the AI lately has gotten smarter. It's gotten to the point where it can measure the distance between you and the car in front of you and be like, hey, Ken, you're not braking fast enough. Quit riding there. Does your car do that to you? Yeah. Some of you who have newer cars even do cooler things, right? But anyway, so yeah, it's amazing the things that artificial intelligence does there. And then I knew, and you probably know, you think, well, it's in your shopping, right? AI is in shopping, and I thought, well, online shopping, right? Of course, I know AI is being used there. I know that they do that. But you do know that in all the shopping you do, whether you go to your local grocery store or whether you go to a big box retailer or wherever you're going, they're using AI to predict what products they need to have on the shelves, ordering, distribution, at the cash register, just being able to tap that credit card or use your phone, AI. So shopping, all your shopping, AI. Emails, you do know that AI is reading every email you send, right? I'm sorry, it is what it is. We can pretend, but that's what's going on. Especially, by the way, you don't think there's a reason why your email is free? It's not. You are giving them information which they're able to leverage and make money off of. And so yeah, and that doesn't mean, I know we kind of start freaking out. We're like, well, there's some little guy that's reading all my. No, it's AI that's reading it. They compile it, they bring it down, and they make money off of it. So yeah, all your emails. It's pretty cool now too, by the way, that you can actually write emails without having to write them, right? You just say, hey, respond to this email for me. Yeah, that looks pretty close to what I wanted to say. Change this word, change that word. There you go, AI. And then there is banking. Banks use AI so much for so many things, whether you're digitally putting in that, isn't it nice, by the way, not to run to the bank to deposit every check anymore? Yeah, that's AI. There's a reason they're able to do that, and that's part of it. And there's so many other applications. I don't have time to talk about all the ways that banking's doing it. But wait, there's more. How about this one? Anybody use any fitness apps? Anybody got a little watch on their wrist that's, paying attention to what your heart rate is and doing all kinds of other things? Yeah, AI. I happen to love that because my employer requires me to get a certain number of points to get the good insurance that I call the Rainbows and Unicorn plan, as opposed to the other one that I call the Donkey Dung plan. And so I have to get a certain number of points. And prior to having this watch, I had to manually put them in. It was not fun. And now, 2 months in, I have all the points I need because this baby takes care of it for me. Do they have a lot of information about me? Yeah, but I don't have to work as hard. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay. Like I said, remember what we said? It's like, I know, but I don't know, right? Okay. So how about education? Looking at Mel Wade, one of our very cool church members, who does the technology for the Florida Conference and their education system. Mel, AI is being used, right? A lot. And it's the stuff that you might not think about, like lesson planning. Two, things that you maybe are aware of, like Khan Academy. Like you can go to some of these websites like Khan Academy, and if you are a student and you're struggling with the subject, it will assess you, and then it will actually come up with a customized plan to fill in the gaps, because like the gaps I have are not the same as the gaps that you might have. And so they assess you, our AI assesses you, and then gives you that individual plan to bring you up to fill in the gaps that you need. Very cool stuff and amazing. What happens in education, that's just growing and growing. Of course, there's the part that we're worried about, well, are kids going to learn because they're just going to have, AI writing their papers for them, but now teachers have AI that decide whether AI wrote the paper, so there's all kinds of stuff going on there. It's its own little Cold War going on there. So anyway, then we have AI in medicine. That's what Dexter was talking about and what he specializes in. It does everything from predict trends in infectious diseases to helping hospitals have the right supplies in their supply chain so that they have the right medicine at the right time. They can predict, okay, we're going to have, if we have this many people, we need this and we need that. And that's, again, I'm just like scratching a little bit of the surface here. There's so many different ways. Doctors, AI can help doctors with diagnoses. They can help them do surgeries. There's incredible amount of work that's going in with that. And then we can talk about the justice system. Now, this one's a little freaky because I do feel like there was a movie a couple years ago about, something about predicting crimes before they happen. And we are there. We have AI that can predict when there's going to be crime in certain areas and certain times. We also have AI that's helping the justice system when it comes to scheduling trials. How long is it going to be? That can figure out if it's this kind of case, it's this. You can file reports. You have attorneys that can use AI to just make up basic things that have to go into a judge that's just kind of more template type stuff, and they just go through and figure things out. Again, just so many different ways that AI is being used in the criminal justice system. And then, of course, there's your local call center. We used to complain that our customer service call plans were being outsourced to other countries, and now we don't outsource it to other countries, we just outsource it to AI. And so if you don't know it, I mean, we may be there, or if we're not, we're only just a few years away from when you call and want to talk to somebody, you'd be talking to what sounds like a human being who will give you answers. And the cool thing about them is no matter how much you yell at AI, it doesn't care. It's like, whatever, let me just help you out here. And it won't lose its temper with you, and it won't hang up on you. It'll just say, please be polite, sir. Anyway, so customer service is being revolutionized. So those are some of the things that I can think of, but maybe my favorite was my daughter. I had no idea. She told me, And you got how I'm not gonna don't you don't have to raise your hand. Everybody know who Taylor Swift is? Yeah, okay. You've been living in a cave if you don't, but whatever. And if you know who Taylor Swift is, good chance you know she's dating this guy named Trevor Kelsey who plays football. Travis, my bad. I live under a rock. I got the one that was important right. Okay, there we go. Sorry. He's not on my fantasy football team. So one of Taylor's fans decided to go ahead and have AI make up a song that sounded like it was written by Taylor, that sounds like it's sung by Taylor, a music video, but everything in this video is AI. Everything. Check it out.
If you in a ring, I want one, two. Take me down the aisle and say I do. We can celebrate with the midfield kiss. Can we hit the church with the fake Elvis? Don't come near me if the score for the other team is more than you.
Crazy, huh? All right, hang on a second. I want you to hear it twice. No. All right, check this out. So which one of these is real? Left or right? Left or right? Which one's AI? All right, which one is real? Left or right? All right, which one is real? Left or right? Crazy, right? How'd you do? Yes, some of you are good, some of you are like, oh no. Oh no. And that really is where, this is where I think AI starts freaking us out, right? It's like when you can spoof, I mean, that to me, that sounded like a Taylor Swift song. It sounded like Taylor Swift singing, and that's all AI. And then these videos, you're like, oh my goodness, if people can replicate that way, there's some serious implications. And so some of you are like, well, I'm okay with that. I really think AI is just going to be all about rainbows and unicorns, and it's going to be fine. This is the way. And then there are others of you that are like, no. No. This is what's going to happen right here. This is what AI is going to do. So how about it? How do we look at this from a Christian perspective? Is AI a promised apocalypse of Revelation? Is this where everything is finally going to wrap up? Is AI evil? Is it going to kill us? Is it? Well, let me go ahead and start here. AI is neither good nor evil. AI is technology. Technology is not that complicated. Fire is technology. Fire does good things. Fire does bad things. Cars are technology. They do good things. They do some bad things, depending on how they're used. And if we go back to not too long ago for me, for my daughter, she can't believe I lived in a time period where the internet was kind of a new thing. But in the 90s, when the internet came out, I remember going to church and hearing people say, this is it. It will not be 5 to 10 years before Jesus comes back because the internet is the end of all things, right? It's a horrible hellscape that's going to usher in the end, and this is it. It's been, 34 years? And I'm not saying the internet is a good place, because there's a lot of bad things that happen on the internet. The internet's used for a lot of really horrendous things that have made our world a worse place. But you know what? It's also been used for a lot of things that make the world a lot better place. And I suggest to you that there's not a one of you in here that would want to live in a world without internet. Now you go, oh, I would. Would you? Think back to the 1970s if you're that old. Think back and ask yourself, really? You don't like all the things that the internet does? You don't enjoy having some of the conveniences that you have today? I'll tell you what, my credit score is 1,000,000 times better than it was when I had to lick a stamp and put a check in an envelope. All I have to do is click a button now, or just have it on auto. So AI is not good or it's not evil. It's amoral. It's about how it's used. It's how we use it that makes the difference. And for as long as Christianity has been, Christians have leveraged technology. Jesus leveraged technology when he stood on a boat, which a boat is a piece of technology, Jesus stood on a boat, rowed out a little ways so that he could speak to a large crowd. And from that time on, Christians have leveraged technology. Let's go ahead and take the Roman road system, which was mind-blowing to people. Can you imagine being able to walk between towns on a road that's, kind of like it's easy to go from one place to another? And by the way, why was that technology created? It wasn't for good purposes. The Roman Empire wanted to be able to get their armies from point A to point B so they could go and conquer. So what the Christians said is, we need to tear up this road system. We need to go ahead and stop Rome from doing these horrible things. No, it's not what they did. You know what they did? They said, we can use these roads to take the gospel to the far-flung places in the world. We can use it for good. It might have been designed for a bad purpose, but we can use it for a great purpose, sharing with the world Christ. Then there's the printing press. In his book, Dominion, Tom Holland, who is not a Christian, agnostic, atheist, historian, argues that in the book Dominion that Christianity has had a massively positive impact on the world. And one of those things that he talks about is the printing press. Before the printing press, literacy levels in Europe were really low. As soon as the printing press comes along, and Protestantism embraces this, because Protestants said, look, everybody needs to be able to read the Bible for themselves. Everybody should be able to read it. Prior to that, you had to go to your church, hope they had a copy of maybe part of the Bible, and then you had to be able to read. Well, all of a sudden, when books become available in mass, and when the Bible is available in mass, now there's a reason to read. There's ability, and so schools begin. And what Holland points out is that in these, you can watch and you can see that in these Protestant areas, literacy levels are high because there's a reason to read. And the Christians have leveraged that printing press to make that happen. What about radio and television? This is one of the things I'm really proud of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. When radio and television came out, the Seventh-day Adventist Church didn't say, we need to do away with these things. They're spreading secular ideology into the world. They may have said that they're doing that, but what they said is, hey, how can we use that? Did you know that, seriously, one of the oldest, if not the longest, continuously running television program out there is an Adventist program that was leveraging it? Because we as Christians and as Seventh-day Adventists have said, when technology comes along, how can we use it to advance the gospel? Secular society can do what they want. They will do what they want. But you know what? We can do something too. We don't have to sit there and just bemoan it and be like, this is awful. We can say, hey, we can use this for Jesus. The internet came along, and I believe the internet, and Christians were able to use the internet to change the world in so many ways. Christ has gone into countries where Christ was never allowed because Christians weren't allowed to go to those places. And now it's accessible to anybody who has an internet connection. The internet's been an incredible force for Christianity. So let's talk about two basic principles for using AI today. The first one is this: are your values in alignment with how you use it? This is pretty much you can apply this to any technology, but AI in particular. And by the way, do you know what your values are? Have you sat down to think about what your values are? Values shape how you make decisions. And if you don't know what your values are, then new technology will shape you. But if you know what your values are, you will use your values to shape how you use that technology. Here at Whole Life, we have values: love, acceptance, forgiveness, grace, the Bible, worship, and participation. Those are our values here. So let's go ahead and use that example. Is how I am using AI loving? What do we, as Christians, we know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So when I'm using AI, am I bringing glory to God by how I use it? Am I being kind to the human beings around me? Am I being loving to those that are in proximity to me? You know, for me, one of my values in life is safety. I want the people that are around me to be safe. It's how I'm using AI creating safety for those around me. And that kind of leads me into the second point that I want you to think about when it's a basic principle. Where it's within your ability, are you creating guardrails for the safe and ethical use of it? You think, well, I'm not a programmer like Dexter. I don't know how to, I'm not really on the edge, cutting edge of it. Yeah, but where it is within your power, are you creating guardrails? If you're using it at work, are you being wise about how you use it? If you're an employer, are you caring about your people or just saying, oh, I can outsource this to AI, adios? Or you're being thoughtful and saying, hey, how can I help my employees leverage AI and not just being like, I don't care about you? Or at home, as if you have children, are you being thoughtful about putting guardrails around their use of AI and how it can impact them? Are you having conversations about them about why it's important for them to be able to do research and how to put things in their own words and not simply use AI to do it for them? If that's your value. Are you creating the guardrails that you want? Because too many of us sit here and we whine about the government not putting in guardrails. We whine about tech companies not doing things. And yet we sit and do nothing, even the things that are within our power to do, we're not doing. So before we start throwing rocks at the tech companies and our government and other places, let's go ahead and deal with what's within the space that we can control, the areas that we have. Let's put the guardrails in there, and then we can have conversations about everybody else. But let's stop living in a world where we blame everybody else instead of taking personal responsibility for what's within our ability to do things. I want to leave you with some scripture. Like I said, when we look at AI, we think about all the horrible things. And can I just take a moment and say, those concerns are real. Privacy concerns, real. Loss of jobs, real. AI suddenly deciding to do what it wants to do. Real concern. So let's not minimize that. With all the good, there are some very legitimate concerns. And here's what I want you to remember. I want you to remember this prayer from Daniel in Daniel chapter 2. Praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power. He controls the course of world events. He removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in darkness, though he is surrounded by light. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors, for you have given me wisdom and strength. You have told me what I've asked, and have revealed to us what the king demanded. Here's the thing. This is an ancient prayer in an ancient time, and yet Daniel's words apply to us today. They apply to us because God is in charge of all wisdom and power, and he's the one that gives wisdom to the wise. And sometimes we want to take God and put him in the little God box over here. We want to put technology in the little technology box over here, science here, religion there. Look, family, God is the God of science. God created science. God is behind science. And I would suggest to you that God is the giver of artificial intelligence. He gave the wisdom to human beings to be able to make that happen. And God is the one that sets up and takes down. And what that means to me is I don't have to feel fear. Have people used technology in the past for horrendous things? They have. And that may happen with AI, but you know what I know? God's still in charge. And I don't have to live in fear because my God is in charge. So I leave you with this prayer. I pray that you will understand Paul's prayer. I pray that you will understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe in him. This is the same mighty power that raised Christ from the dead and seated him in the place of honor at God's right hand in the heavenly realms. That's a lot of power. I would suggest to you it's more power than AI. Now, God is far above any ruler or authority or power or leader or AI. God is far greater, not only in this world, but also in the world to come. If you live in fear of AI, I want to suggest you do a faith check on yourself. If you think that AI is more powerful than God, do a faith check. Living in fear tells me that you're not really trusting that God is in charge of everything. But God has put all things, including AI, under the authority of Christ and has made Christ head over all things for the benefit of the church. That includes AI. God has put Christ over AI for the benefit of the church. And as the church as his body is made full and complete by Christ, who fills all things, including AI, everywhere with himself. So as we think about artificial intelligence, as we think about AI, we do not need to live in a world of fear. We need to live in a world of possibility. How can I be wise and gain the resource to understand AI, to make wise decisions, to put up the guardrails? And how can I then use AI to build God's kingdom and change this world? And I do not have to be afraid because I know God is in charge.
All right. While Ken's getting a chair over here, I'm Stanley Pomanowski. I'm your online worship host, which means that I've been chatting with people online, and we've been getting questions in about this service, and you guys can join in. Just head over to our website, wholelife.church/live, and next week, if you're thinking you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat then as well about that week's sermon. So just encouraging you guys to join in the chat room because it's great. It's awesome. So we have some questions here. We have one from someone named George, and it says, with AI being so accurate to the reality, how can a Christian differentiate between what's godly and what's not? And I will expand that into just about everything on the internet. There's so much information, and there's also so much disinformation or inaccurate things. How are we supposed to know what's real, what's not, what's the truth?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to need to dive deeper into that during the podcast because I know that we're running out of a little bit of time here. What I go back to is that if you're talking about a deep fake where, it's hard to know whether this is true, if that's really that person saying it, or if it's something else. My general rule of thumb is that if it doesn't seem like the person, then maybe go with them if they say it's not the person. But when it comes to knowing the truth, look, going back to that first thing, values don't change. So whether it's AI or it's real, wrong is wrong. So how do you know it's wrong in real life? The same is true in artificial. If it's cheating on a spouse in real life, it's cheating on a spouse virtually or in AI. So go with what your values and your morals are and apply them in that space as well. And don't let your morals shift because you're like, well, this isn't real. What we know more and more from artificial intelligence is that when we're seeing a lot of these images, our brain can't differentiate between the difference between what's real and what's not. So let's just go ahead and say, whether it's real or it's not real, let's just keep the same values that we would have in normal life in the virtual world or in AI for that matter.
I would just add that it's probably a good idea to just go out and talk to a real person sometimes.
There is that as well.
Because there's a lot of stuff that I've seen that are memeified, and I'm like, wow, I don't believe that, but yet they're putting me in this box over here, and I'm like, that's weird. I wish maybe I should call that person and see what's up, like why they feel that way, is maybe where I'd go with that. But
yeah, there's so much more we can talk about. But we'll definitely talk about it on the podcast.
I will tease one more question for the podcast, and it's kind of a two-parter between two different people, but Anonymous here asked about, should we not have some responsibility to others that will not be able to get the jobs after AI takes over, like usually the low-paying jobs of like working at McDonald's. Now you can just push your own buttons to order your food, things like that, where those jobs go away. Do we have a responsibility for those people? And also, do we have a responsibility to hold programmers accountable? That's a two-part question. That second part comes from Lynn. You'll have to answer that in the podcast because we're out of time. But check that out. It comes out every week called This is Whole Life, and it's available everywhere that podcasts are heard. And you can send questions into that if you have more questions about AI or this week or next week's sermon to podcast@wholelife.church. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Hi, this is Randy McGray, podcast producer and host here at Whole Life Church. Loving people into a lifelong friendship with God is our mission at the Whole Life Church, and our podcasts are designed to help facilitate conversations that help us grow together in that pursuit. Now that you've heard the message for this week, don't forget to check out the Whole Life takeaways for this message. Swipe up in today's show notes and join the conversation. Speaking of conversations, each Wednesday morning we take a closer look at the week's message. That's right, the one you just listened to. We discuss practical ways to apply spiritual lessons and ask honest questions about the issues we face as Christians, all focused through the lens of grace. Your voice is a welcomed addition to that conversation. We encourage your thoughts and your questions by sending a voicemail or text to 407-965-1607 or send an email to podcast@wholelife.church. You can find everything podcast related on our website, wholelife.church/podcast. And plan on spending every Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning with us as we bring you the Whole Life Church inspiration you love straight into your headphones. Thanks for listening and have a great week.